What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Make It Custom. I'm Carl Fisher, and in this video today, we are going to be talking about bead rolling. We're going to make a new table for the bead roller. We're going to give you the DXF file for that if you already have one of our bead rollers, which you can find on our website, japhandskustoms.com. And we are going to make door panels for the Model A today. So we're going to cover all kinds of things. We're going to do tips and tricks on like how to make sure that you're following your line correctly, where to look, how to steer, as well as a couple of different techniques with different bead roll dies, how to step lines, and then how to pleat aluminum panels. So these are actually the done panels that we're going to show you how to do today. So thanks a lot for watching. Make It Custom. Don't forget to like, click subscribe, hit notifications. Let's get into this video. All right, so first things first, we are going to make our templates for the door panels in the Model A. They're gonna be really straightforward. They're very basic panels. They're like just a rectangle, but no matter what shape they are, no matter how simple it is, it's really important to get like a very accurate template because there are some areas that probably aren't perfect. So like what I mean by that is maybe not perfectly straight. There's some little bends in the door that it might not just be a dead straight line. Oh wow, our construction paper almost fits. So what it'll probably do is tuck up a little bit underneath this lip, and then once we have our template, I think we'll be able to kind of get a good idea on what sort of a design to do. I know there's this big pocket in here. Maybe we could do something like possibly like a door pocket. I'm not really sure. We're definitely going to have to relief a little bit for that, but overall, it's kind of a blank canvas as far as design goes, which I'm pretty stoked on. So I'm just going to tuck this up here a little bit, line it up to one edge to get us started. It's kind of neat that this door opens all the way. I need some magnets, please. Yeah. These are sweet magnets. They look like pawns in chess, but you get them on Amazon, and they're relatively strong as they fall off. With this thick card, you kind of do need a bunch of them. And there, it's actually touching. That's what I mean, though, is the door has some shape, right? It's touching up there, and this is in. So having a paper template is really important. Right now I'm just going to trace on the outside of the door because it's the easiest thing for me to get the actual profile. And then I'll measure back from that line. It's going to be too hard to guess all the way down, and I don't trust that it's dead straight, that we could get it with a ruler. All right, so pull this thing off of here. I'm gonna measure how wide that is. I'm always taking note whenever I use a thicker felt pen. I always take note of what side of the line I'm going to leave when I cut something, if you know what I mean, because the thickness of a felt pen is, you know, it's something, it's like a 1/16 of an inch or whatever it is, or you can try and use a skinnier felt pen, but what I find is the most accurate is that you do not choose the line. Like, I don't want to cut wavering on a felt line. I want to choose the outside edge of that line where it goes from black to white. I love how like accurate I'm trying to be, but like this is literally floppy paper. Okay, well, we're gonna use these probably a bunch in the bead rolling, but I really am excited about this little tool that Elio and I came up with yesterday. It was funny, we kind of had this like discussion about bead rolling, and we were laughing about like how we're always using like roll lock discs, or finding like different grinding discs or rolls of tape to make the radiuses when we're doing bead rolled patterns. And then also like when I'm doing things like the scales on my truck, like those are half moon repeating, and they line up to center of the next one. So basically what we came up with was a set of gauges that they are all different diameters. So what's marked on here is the diameter. So they're a 1/4 inch different from each other, right? So they can sit onto each other, and that's the difference in each size until it gets really small. So we got 4 inch, 3.5, 3. I think these are all ones that I would commonly probably use. And then we put the bend in them like this so that you can hold on to it, and you can, you know, you can just stick it where it's gonna go and kind of grab it. So like that's not the one we want. Let's see, 1.5. It's probably between 1.5 and 1. 1's pretty good. That's pretty good actually. Yeah, I bet it's 1. There it is. Get it from this side here. So yeah, I don't know. We're gonna use these for like, yeah, the bead roll designs and stuff. Like they're just, hopefully they're gonna be handy, and they're gonna be on the website by the time this drops. So go and get yourself a set if you would like, and let us know what you think. We're gonna put them on sale to drop them, just because they're a new product and I want everybody to kind of jump on it, try it, see if they like it. If there's any kind of like suggestions for the next run, then we'll take those, of course. But I think you're all really gonna like them, because I already do. 8-piece set. Make it custom. Okay, trim this out now. We're gonna have to make everything a little bit more accurate and finish everything off. But like I said, I'm gonna run my cut along the outside of this line. See where that spot where I said that it looked kind of funny? It must have been the way we were holding the paper, because it actually did not bend there, right? That pulled away and that should have been straight. So like, I'm always looking at like any subtle kind of differences that look weird, because sometimes you might notice it without knowing why. And that's the case there. So we're gonna have to fix that boo-boo there. That's like maybe a 1/16 that pulled off of there that doesn't look right. So because we are spoiled with all the paper, we're just gonna cut another one. Okay, so I'm just gonna cut another one, and the reason being is that, like, yes, you could just add a little bit of tape on the end and whatever, but paper's 50 cents, and if it's nice and solid and we're using the same template for both sides, then I'd rather it just be, you know, right on, right? I think that these radiuses look a little bit tight, so I think I'm gonna make them a little bit trimmed out. They look a little bit too tight. I think what, last time did I use the 1 inch? Yeah, I think that 1.5 inches is probably better. We're only taking off like a 16. I know some people that are watching right now are like, whoa, you're being like way too accurate about all this stuff. And it's like, the way I think about it is that all the extra time I put into the template itself, like this could take me an hour. I don't know. It could take me a whole hour. And I would be totally happy spending that entire hour on this, because the amount of time it takes to redo the metal portion of it is ridiculous. So, and then at that same time, like if you screw this up, then you're gonna have to make another template to redo it. So, I don't know. I always spend all the time on the paper. It works the same for metal shaping also. Like you wanna make sure your pattern is perfect so that you can trust the pattern. If you can trust the pattern, then you already know your piece is gonna turn out right. So I'm pretty happy with it now, I think. It's got like a nice little bit of gap around everything. So now we gotta come up with an idea for a design, because there is no real door handle that's gonna be protruding out of this thing. We can just be, you know, as cool as we wanna be with the shape of it. You know, you've got like a little bit of a shape here. It's mostly square, but there are some kind of lines on this car that are repeating. So I usually try and take design from that sort of thing. Like if there is a continuity in fabrication on a build, I usually pick up on that when I'm looking at other people's cars. So I see like there's the line of the dash coming into here, which you could pick up on. You might not want to. The bottom of the dash. The other lines are like the gap that you have here to this door gap. You might want to have the same gap from there, you know, in this panel. Those angles, we might want to put an angle through this panel. I do really want to incorporate a little bit of brass into the door panels, similar to my personal hot rod truck. So because we've got a brass insert here as well, I'd like to carry that brass insert into those panels. So perhaps we take a little bit of design off of this, like using that same rolled look on the step of whatever insert we put in. Maybe we do that. Something I'm gonna have to take a minute and figure out. This is like the toughest part of any bead rolling job, is just coming up with, you know, especially when you already have things around it that it has to kind of line up to. So basically what I've done is taken a bunch of ideas and I just threw them all down with pencil, but I marked a bunch of points that we might want to line things up to. So for example, the top of this radius, the bottom of this, if I'm gonna do something similar on this panel, it would be good to line up to that. So I've marked those places on my paper. But now I think I start to kind of think about constraints. What I mean by constraints is what are the must pickup points or the must measurements that I'm gonna use, right? So like I was saying, a must measurement, one of them is this curved top line that overlaps our panel, that our panel's gonna slip up underneath. That curved top line, we have to know about that because, you know, we obviously can't have a totally straight border even though our panel is straight. So that's a must line. We've got our dash lines, the two lines in the dash, that's that centered body line, and then the bottom of the dash. As I said, also we've got like the bottoms and tops of those radiuses. I think I'm going to match this radius to a couple of triangles in these bottom corners. I think that's gonna be the first place that I'm gonna start you know, coming up with the design. I'm gonna use felt now and draw some of these radiuses in. Maybe it'll be just a box, maybe it'll be a triangle, but whatever it is, it'll have the same radius on the corners as we have on the corners here, and the height will be the same and the depth will be the same as the points we've got there. So once I felt that in, I might like one of these other designs better. So I'm just gonna kind of slowly work through it. It's one of those things that you can't like, or for me, I have a difficult time pre-designing an entire thing. Like one thing kind of sort of needs to lead to another for me anyway.
It would almost look better if you did two. If you went like from here to there and then just did two triangles that way.
Oh, I just did like a Z almost.
Yeah.
Ooh, I think I like that better too, man. I don't know.
Dude, I think we just gotta keep it simple. Like, border, do a 3/4 inch, like, raised around here. And then just do something simple in the middle. The whole car is super sleek and simple.
But I still think it needs like a diagonal or something. Like it can't be a square and then, you know, like it needs a diagonal or a V or, you know, it's gotta have something like. And then our brass insert up here, if we are to make it similar to the center of the dash, then it's gotta pick up on that somehow. I don't know. Ponderings. We'll be right back. Very burnt out on door panel designs now, but I think that we kind of have an idea. So like we tried so many different renditions on here and we tried, you know, I think it looks, I don't mind this. I like the taper happening here. We're going with the curve of the door there, but something Elio pointed out, which I absolutely love, and well done Elio for noticing this line. This line here, this tapered line that's coming down kind of lines up with the top of that kick panel tapered line down there. So that's where we're gonna separate the door panel. We're gonna have a straight line tapering through it that will separate a top brass piece that will be a rounded cornered triangle essentially, similar to our rounded corner triangle insert for the dash. Give us some continuity there. We're gonna use the same bead rolls and give the same profile of it. It's kind of like a bit of an Art Deco bulge that is similar to what we have on the Zephyr looking dash. And then inside this panel down here, we can kind of decide whether or not we wanna make it simple or more complicated. I don't think we've decided whether or not we would put pleats on that or if we would do diamonds or something. I'm thinking more pleats just because they're a little bit less, like they're a little bit more understated as far as designs go, because we're trying to make this thing, you know, gentlemanly. But anyway, that's the new design process. So we're gonna trace out that again. We're gonna cut it out again out of another piece of template paper and make this new design, try and make it a little bit simpler, but definitely pick up on this angled line flowing through the car. I think it does add a lot of shape and it's, I don't know, aesthetically pleasing to my eyes. So that's what we're gonna do next. And then we're gonna get into the bead rolling. All right, we're back. I'm wearing different stuff. It's a different day. Actually, our friend Jordan Bennett is in town, Bennett's Customs. Check him out, YouTube channel, cool guy. From here, back visiting, Bennett's Customs, support. We're gonna actually be catching up with him later on this week or next week. We're gonna be hanging out a little bit, and he is gonna be also now on Team Fast Cut. So there's some news. Fast Cut CNC is also sponsoring Jordan, and so he's gonna be bringing one all the way back to Australia, and can't wait to see what he does with that stuff. Okay, so where are we at right now? Last time I was working on this, we kind of finished off just figuring out design ideas. Elio and I just like racked our brains so much as to what would suit this car, because this is where I get overthinky on things, because I think that one thing always leads to the next thing. So whatever I decide here will also kind of tell me what restrictions I have in how the designs will be on the seat. There are already brass pieces inserted in sheet metal in the dash, so that kind of tells me how things need to be for the door panels already. Like, what die am I going to use? I'm going to use the same one as that so that it looks the same, and it makes fabrication continuity, I guess. So I was kind of thinking the Art Deco stuff and trying to pick up a little bit of the design cues from the dash centerpiece, some of those kind of like Art Deco stepped bumps. And I think that's like a little bit too complicated, something that Elio suggested, and I love this idea because it picks up on lines in the car that we were not originally looking at, is right here. I'm gonna jump in. You guys look from this side if you come here, Elio. That stuff out of the way. But with that door panel being there, Elio was talking about this line, and this line actually points directly at the top of this one. So I do really like that, the fact that it sort of works that way. So what I would like to do is make a brass piece that essentially is kind of rounded, and maybe an insert of brass that's rounded here, very simple, like triangular, following the slight reverse curve of that top part of the door. And I think that that will look cool, like the center part of the dash, just this like tapered, elongated triangle that's kind of like the similar shape here, tapered, elongated triangle. We'll do that, and then that way as well, the top of the seat, we're gonna do a bench seat in this, hopefully. The top of that bench seat, I would envision to be basically like two door panels almost. So maybe the top of the bench seat, well, that's not gonna give you a good representation, but maybe it's like kind of like that. And it would make sense. I don't know. So we're gonna start with that. I like that shape, I like those lines, so we're gonna redraw this all out, starting with like a 1-inch border around everything. We're gonna make a tool to do the stepped countersunk trick along the edge. I really like it when in the past we've used a pressed tool that we made so that it'll actually bump up and allow a tapered head screw to countersink into a panel. So we're gonna make that after these are done. Yeah, I think that like that size is better.
Yeah, because even on there, I think this radius on the front, it's just below that one. Does that make sense? Like where the dash is, it's kind of like, this is just below the dash on there, so if we cut it early, it might work out. See what I mean? Like it's kind
of... Oh, you're holding it up there, because like it actually, like the line is drawn to that. The other thing too is that perhaps the door panel does not need to care what the rest of the interior structure looks like, as much as I want to make that like a continuous continuity thing. Like maybe we're overthinking whether or not that needed to be totally lined up. Like it's nice that it lines up with that line.
Yeah.
And then maybe it doesn't need to care what is happening there, as you know,
I think when they both curve here,
Yeah.
it'll be kind of like conjoined.
Yeah.
It'll disappear.
Right, and as long as we give like a solid radius at the bottom of this, it's still gonna have like a nice space in between there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think maybe 1.25 to separate the two though is a good size.
Inch
like
and a quarter? Yeah. Okay.
And then we can
start
just-
the blower panel there. You wouldn't go thicker? Like all that stuff's so much thicker. Like that's
true.
2.5.
Yeah. Well, let's go
That's
2.5
2.5.
then. Let's just go 2.5.
Yeah.
2.5.
Okay. Sure. Sure.
Continuity.
Continuity. I don't think anybody knows anything about your Corolla.
Oh.
Elio has the coolest Corolla. Elio gets no airtime on here. While I'm doing something boring, I want him to tell a little story about his Corolla because it's like one of the rarest import Japanese Corollas. That's like, anyway, you tell him about your Corolla.
Like the story or
Yeah, I don't know, like
or what
just,
it is.
well, just start with like what it is and like you basically built the entire thing except like the outer shell. So like. Explain how wild it is.
Okay, so
Elio's gonna crash this thing.
it's true.
For sure. Elio's not gonna get hurt because it's got a cage in it and stuff, but he built it literally to crash it. Like he told me that. I'm not like condemning him. He told me that.
Yeah, so it's a 1972 Toyota Corolla. They're named like the Mango because they're a fastback shape. And then there's another one, like same front of the car, but the back kind of like a notchback, has like a big trunk and stuff. And it was either this car or I was kind of looking for like a Mazda RX-3 to kind of get and build. And then through the grapevine, some dude found out through the grapevine that I was looking for one or the other. And he was like, hey, like I have this Corolla and I used to like kind of race it and stuff, but like I'm in Saskatchewan. And I was like, oh, okay, like, I mean, that's not a huge deal, but whatever. So I was like, oh, send me some photos. So a week goes by, he sends me a bunch of photos and stuff. And turns out, yeah, he used to like race it and stuff back in 1992. So, and this guy like wasn't that old. Like I would say he's like probably like mid 40s now. And, so he was just like a teenager, and I had a bunch of 8086 like Corolla parts and everything with it, and I was like, okay, like told me a price was right. And then a couple weeks later, we ventured off to Saskatchewan to go get this car, and he was like, oh, like whatever you do, just don't forget the transfer papers. I'm like, why? Like, why would I want transfer papers from Saskatchewan? But sure, whatever. So we go off, go see this car and everything, and then ends up being, he moved from Nanaimo to there and never transferred the car because he never drove it because he got a family and stuff and ended up having clean papers and everything for the car. So that was super cool. Came with so much extra stuff that I had no idea. He never mentioned any of it. He was like kind of like surprise and filled up the back of the truck and stuff and brought it back home and then
So, sir, is a 1972 Toyota Corolla, and factory? What's the what motor? What did it have?
It originally came with a 2TC, so just like a 1.6 liter full iron block 4-cylinder.
And you're running.
And I'm gonna be running a 2-liter Honda engine in it now. So it's like. From factory, they're like 1,750 pounds, like wet. And now it should be, with all the metalwork and stuff I've done to it, should be sub 2,000, I'm hoping. Around, with like 300 horse. But yeah, so.
Sorry, how many horse?
300 horse. So brought it to the shop and everything, and then I was like, okay, like I've always wanted to do cantilever suspension, and I've built other Corollas in the past, so I kind of had an idea for front suspension. So I kind of put all in all together, and pretty much from the front seats back, I cut the whole floor out and everything, and then the firewall forward, I cut everything out and kind of just put it on the frame table that I had from Carl, and went to town, and I locked myself in the shop. It was like a month and a half straight. Like I would sleep at the shop, go to work, and then work all day, and then go back to the shop, just bust, like, just work for like another 6-7 hours, go to bed at like midnight, 1 o'clock, wake up at 6:30 for work again. And then I did that for, yeah, like 2 months, 3 months straight. And like, obviously some weekends here and there, I'd go have fun and stuff. But like, yeah, I didn't get burnt out or anything. It was the weirdest thing. I just had so much motivation to like, I started in October, I think it was October, September. And I was like, I want this thing running and driving by April. And I was almost there. There was a lot of confusion and stuff, and like I had an SR20 in it and stuff, but that's all like besides the point. And now like a bunch of stuff happened, put the car in storage, and then now I'm back at it, and now it's got a Honda 2-liter in it with like high compression, big cams, big like ported head and everything, stepped headers, and
It's wild.
yeah,
It's
it should
wild.
be like really,
We're gonna put
really
some pictures
good.
in if we
Yeah,
haven't
I'll
already.
throw some. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it should be. It'll be super low and everything, but I wanted to build it as an aggressive street car. And like I had drift cars in the past, like nothing super crazy or anything, but I was like, oh, like I'll sell this drift car and it'll fund this one. And well, here we are not running later. So. But yeah, so hoping.
It'd be like on the dyno in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, realistically, I just finished the exhaust. Like
Wait
it's
on
all
some
mounted,
body
all the
parts
shifter,
and
yeah,
stuff
picked up
and-
some body parts. So should be on the dyno like, yeah, next couple weeks. And then everything else after that, at least it's drivable.
Yeah.
But it's been like a long haul. I had to like, for the SR, all the exhaust and everything is on the driver's side. So I had to rerun all my fuel lines, all my brake lines and everything to the other side because now the exhaust is on the passenger side. It's just like, I pretty much redid everything that I had complete. I had to make a new gas tank because there was no room for muffler or anything. It was, it's just been a...
If you guys are interested in this build, check out Life with a Pepperoni on Instagram. He'll have like some pictures on there and stuff too. You can actually see like the fab work and stuff that he's done. He's got a fast cut table also. So like, it's just a wild man with like 3D, like 3D design too. Like the entire car, basically, all his right down to all his bead rolling is like done, like in CAD or in solid, not SolidWorks.
Fusion.
Fusion 3D.
Yeah, just
super cool. Check it out. All right, so I got the centers cut out of these. Basically, now these are my templates for bead rolling. I can actually just like use these measurements, mark it all out, cut them out of here so that I can mark my inside line. This outside line, I do still need to mark out, but it's like a measured border against the edge, so I'll be able to easily do that later, or I can choose to trim this out one more time with scissors or the knife and trace it off of that, which I might still do that. So now I'm just gonna tape these on and trace it all out. Elio's just cutting me one more blank. Okay, we gotta make sure that we do lefts and rights. Right. I like to leave this stuff on. I know a lot of guys like to peel it, but I like to leave it on if I can. One more layer of protection, and the bead roller doesn't seem to have a problem with it per se. Okay, now that it's laid out, you can kind of see what we're kind of hoping for. Nice, simple pleats. This line represents stepping it up all the way around. This line represents stepping it back down. And then these lines will be, you know, kind of the puffs of the pleats. This line will be a actual cutout, like we're gonna trim that completely out because we're gonna make that piece in brass to insert from the backside, and then we're gonna use some nice brass rivets all the way around. I think it's gonna look really, really good. But before we get to this, the bead roller needs a little bit of attention. What I mean by that is we gotta make a table for it. I don't know what happened. I've been wanting to remake the table for the bead roller for a very long time, and sometimes I feel like my past self does my future self a favor and will hide something so that I have to be forced to remake something like that. So it's very, very possible that I could have looked at it and scrapped it because I wanted to remake the bead roller table. So Elio and I actually brainstormed a little bit and we got that done, and I'm gonna throw it together right now. If you do have our bead roller, we don't actually sell this bead roller, but we sell the plans for it, and you can find those on japhandskustoms.com. We're gonna put the DXF for this table on japhandskustoms.com as well if you guys want to just have somebody cut this out. This is all made out of 14 gauge. It's very simple. This is the first time assembling it, but Elio and I spent some good time thinking about it, and we think that it's gonna be pretty solid and relatively easy to put together. So it's all tab and slot. We've made it relatively easy to bend so that you don't actually even have to have a bender. So there's all these cut lines in the drawing so that, you know, it's only attached a little bit. So we should be able to just use like anything, put it on the edge of something and just tap it in those spots with a hammer. You should be able to bend it over and just tack it all together. These are support braces. There's a couple spots that will just drill and tap onto the machine itself. But yeah, I'm just gonna quickly huck that together. So I think we're gonna like drill and tap those to like a 1/2 inch head bolt, which would be like a 5/16. Same thing with this, but I think these ones could just be like a pin. Like we might be able to just drill straight through and just huck a pin in it, because all that one needs to do is just hold it, keep the table from doing that. And then I think that when we were to put, like right now we can change the dies without undoing the pin, but if we wanna put on like our big roller, basically we wanna be able to undo the pin. You can make that a bolt if you want, but I just think pin because you use this a lot. And then you can lift it. It'll hinge off the back ones, and then you'd be able to change the roller. That's the thoughts, okay? So I'm just gonna mark these all so that we can drill them. So I think what we're gonna do first is probably do the pleats, I guess, and then we'll step around the pleats. The reason why I wanna do that is because we'll be able to get the wheels closer to the edge before we step that edge. So this will be you know, something that is kind of puffed up. It'll step up. This edge will also step up so that this border and stripe will be kind of raised up from these other panels, and then this also will be puffed out, which will be cut out and brass. That's kind of what we're thinking. So as far as the dies go, basically you can do a step with a bunch of different dies. Let me just kind of demystify this for a second here. When you see people stepping, what I mean by that is you've got one level and it steps up however far apart or however deep as you set it with the wheels, right? If you stagger the wheels a little bit, that will change the angle and change the length of your step. So that's what I'm talking about. There are step dies that can, that may look directly like a 90-degree step, and those dies are used for this as well. Like you can stagger them, you can basically, when you're stepping, you are only touching with 2 points. So you can actually use sharp dies. Your dies don't actually have to look like the step at all. You can use what's called tipping dies. Tipping dies are typically pointed like this or pointed like that, where basically they have just one point of contact. And if you have two sharper wheels or two edges of wheels, you can just stagger them and make your step in the panel. So tipping dies or doing this step can be done with just about any bead roll die, depending on how you set it up on your bead roller. When we're talking about bead rollers also, I'll just kind of go over some of the basics because we haven't done this in a while. So this bead roller is one that we've made on the channel. It's a 36-inch throat depth. It uses 1-inch axles and 7/8 or 22 millimeter for the size of rollers. These are typically on like the import stuff, like the little bit cheaper versions of bead rollers would have that 7/8. The reason I like it is because it's just dead simple. It's thick, it's 7/8 thick shaft rather than 3/4, and you can just adjust the set screw and move them in and out. Some other bead rollers will have a 3/4 inch die that has a 3/4 inch hole inside the die instead of 7/8, and that one would be like a bolt-on hard mounted where you have to space it and bolt it on, or run an adjuster, or some of them have the shafts themselves that actually do this, where with this one, it's just, you just undo the set screw and you move it over and you do the set screw up again. That's how this one works. And yeah, so for this, we're basically just gonna use these dies right here, which we've got basically just what I said, two different edges. One of the edges will be there, one of the edges will be there. That will step up and down all the way around this panel. And then when we do the pleating, which we're gonna do first right now, we've just got a soft urethane lower die, and we're just gonna be pressing this sharp die into that soft lower die. And that is how it's gonna make the pleated puff. So I'm just gonna run that directly along each one of these lines first. When I'm bead rolling, I like to get down really, really low so that I can see right in the point of contact. I find if I'm standing over top, it's way too easy to kind of lose myself and get, you know, steer away, or because I won't notice, because you're not actually looking at the point of contact. You're like, well, I'm right over top of it. Well, you're not really, because you got to look like right at where the wheel touches the metal, and that'll help keep your lines a little bit straighter. Or at least that's what works for me. So let's start that off. I'm gonna put the bead roller links to the bead roller videos in this description if you guys are interested, because we do have the files. You can make your own bead roller. Elio and I designed this thing for like pretty much 16 gauge. Elio's entire Corolla that we were talking about, his whole floor is 16 gauge, and it's stepped and bead rolled in single pass with this. So when I'm bead rolling, I like to touch down. Like I like to feel where does it touch down on the piece? Kind of somewhere there. And then I want to count how many turns that is. There are some bead rollers that have like quick releases that bring you right back to the same point. I think that's really cool. Maybe we'll incorporate that into one of our tools in the future. But for this, I like to touch down and then I'll count how many turns. So that's one. I can already see like a pretty good puff going on there. I'm gonna move forward a little bit. It looks like I just don't want to pinch the edge. I don't want to get right to the edge right now, because when we step that later, we don't want to see that right in the edge. So I'm going to come away from it just a little bit. So I said that was 1 and a bit. Let's go to 2. Let's go to 2. We'll bring it back to straight like that each time. And here we go. Faster. Probably could go a little faster yet, but for the most part, you don't have to do much, right? You just want to make sure that it's staying on track. Okay. At first, it's just going to look like a bend, right? So, ooh, here's another tip. Forgot about this. It's been a while. When you are doing something like pleats or multiple lines, or if you're, making diamonds, you're just doing it twice, you want to start with most of your material in and work your way out. And the reason being is you can see what's happening here is that this material has already lifted. If I'm going to do that 7, 8 more times, if I'm going the other way, that's going to be jamming up inside this bead roller here because it's not very deep, right? So you want to start in, work your way out, and then we're going to massage the panel, like push those pleats up a little bit and kind of control distortion, so to speak, I guess. Okay, so we touch down there. 1, 2, straight. All right, well now, these pieces are all kind of bent up like that. So really all it is just massaging it back as flat as we can make it. And once we get it flat and step that edge, it should kind of hold it there, help it stay there. I just kind of feel inside each one of those pleats and kind of push there, and you can sort of feel it start bending out and puffing out. It's a lot flatter. I think I pressed a little hard in those spots. I might try and roll that again. I don't know if you can see or not. This just became a little bit inconsistent. All right, not bad. Okay, time to do our steps. Just gonna change the dies now to the step on the bottom. I put this tape here just to try and protect the panel from some of the sharp edges. So however far I set these apart will be the size of the step. I like, 1/8 of an inch or so. That kind of a, maybe a little bigger than that. Okay, and the way that you work, the way that you set it up also matters as to how you watch it on your line and whether or not it brings it up or down on which side. So the way I have it set up right now will bring it up on this side. Now I have to see if that's actually what I want. If I were to run everything through this way, that would be what I would want. But I would rather not do that. I'd rather not have the bulk of the panel on the inside. I'd rather have the bulk of the panel on the outside, right? For me anyway. We can do that. We can do this setup to do the inside of this one, but I would like to swap the dies the other way to do the outside of this one. So since it's already right for at least one of our operations, we'll do that first. So I usually like to start on a radius too. I'd rather not put my start stop right in the middle of a straight line. I'd rather have it kind of at the end of a radius or somewhere on the radius so that I know I'm gonna run it over again, and hopefully it'll be a little bit less noticeable. So same deal here, we touch down. I'm probably gonna do, I don't know if 2 or 1 is better, I'm actually not sure. We'll see. There's 1. That's an awful big step. That might be too big of a step. Glad I caught that now. I'm actually gonna adjust this and make the step a little bit smaller. It's only a 3/4 inch wide area there, so I don't wanna go too crazy with how big the step is. I'm gonna do maybe like 100th thou. No test pieces, Elio. This is art. No, Elio's probably right. We probably should do a test piece, but I'm not going to. Okay, touchdown. 1. I'll give it 1.5. I think that's all it needs. Whatever you do when you're doing a radius, be smooth. If you go outside your line, don't jerk it back, just slowly bring it back because you won't notice it. If your radius is at least smooth, it could vary a little bit, and you know, none of mine are perfect either. Okay, that's that. Kind of see on the back side how we did on the corners and stuff. Pretty good. I like to slow it down for the corners. Like I said, there is a little bit of pop in this panel. All that will go away as soon as we use that dimple tool. That's the other beautiful thing about that. When you step a panel like this, you're collecting material, right? You're actually like pulling material up this way, which means that now that there's too much material here. So sometimes, and you've seen me in the past do it, you shrink on the corner and then it will let the panel relax, right? Now because we've kind of pulled it tight in the center, now there's too much material on the outside and it kind of gets that waviness. That's what's happening. So you can either shrink on the corners and it will relax the panel, but we don't want to do that. We don't want to mark this. This is kind of like our finished side. So what that dimple die tool is that I'm talking about is it raises up like a little bit of material, essentially like collecting and shrinking a little bit around the edge. So it usually relaxes whatever panel you're doing with it. That's how like my truck worked. Basically, they were all just kind of torqued and looking crazy, and then we stamped that all the way around, and it just shrank the flange all the way around, relaxed everything, and then nice flat panel. So hopefully that happens here now also. Okay, we're gonna do the other panel, and then we'll step the dies the other way and get the outside. Touchdown. 1.5. Oh, we gotta turn this up a little bit. So, I hope Elio doesn't mind me sharing, because I didn't really realize that this is a thing. But in the past, Elio has not turned down his speed on the corners and up on the straights. He was just telling me that he just kind of was like, oh wow, like that looks like it works pretty good. So yeah, if you've never done that, I find that a lot easier because it's almost easier to keep something straight if it's going a little bit quicker. And if it's going slower, your corrections will be a little bit more jagged. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. But slowing it, and then you can slow it right down, because I'm sure that, you know, if Elio had one same speed for the entire thing, he's probably going a little too fast on the corners and a little too slow on the straights. So now you can slow it down where it counts to be really smooth and speed it up.
Yeah, as long as you don't lift it up, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make sense.
In the comments, throw down any bead rolling questions that you might have, or any, you know, any of that kind of stuff. I'll try and get and answer them in the comments. Yeah, like I said, I want to do more of the sheet metal stuff. I'm really excited. Like, the ramp truck was super fun because we switched gears to like heavy duty fabrication and burning lots of plate and all that stuff, which is what, you know, I kind of like cut my teeth on with fabrication. But now that we're back on the Roadster and the Zephyr is coming soon, and hopefully we're back in the Cadillac soon, I'm pretty excited for the sheet metal stuff coming up. All right, pretty good. It still has that pop. Like I said, that's because that frame is feeling a little bit too big right now. So they both have a little bit of that in them. Like, they're almost identical. All right, everybody. That, I think, is where we're gonna end this video. It's kind of getting on long, but let's at least give them a little peel and have a look at what we got going on here. I just really want to see what it looks like. Ooh, you know what? I shouldn't be peeling that, actually. Let's peel this. See, it's kind of cut itself out with that die. Yeah, those pleats look pretty good. I like that. Yeah, that looks sweet. That'll be very cool. Like I say, in the next video, we're gonna get on making that tool that's gonna dimple die and countersink our hardware, that will collect a little bit of the material all the way around the edge. It'll take that little bit of pop out of our panels. So thank you everyone for watching Make It Custom, and for this episode on bead rolling. And don't forget to like, click subscribe, hit notifications, and we'll catch you on the next one, everybody. Check us out on Patreon. See you later.